This is Scotty Reed for New Abolitionist Radio, which airs on the Black Talk Radio Network every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. You could tune in and hear myself and Max Parthis as well as Johannan Elia. We are new abolitionists, and our goal is to end 21st century slavery and human trafficking. Now, I'm up pretty late, so please excuse my appearance. It's like approaching 2 a.m. in the morning, but I was on btrcommunity.com, and one of the members posted an article about the CEO of AT&T making a comment about Black Lives Matter at some kind of conference, internal conference, employees only. But he talks about people don't want to talk about racism, basically. But he opened up a door, and I'm glad that he opened up that door because we have mentioned AT&T on our broadcast in the past. So let me just show you a couple of things here as I navigate on the screen. Let's take a look at this article that was published. AT&T CEO passionately defends Black Lives Matter. This is a screenshot. You can go to CNET. That's where it's published. You just Google that headline. You'll be able to find it. But it says I could read it a little bit. There was no mincing of words at an AT&T employee meeting that focused on bridging racial divide or bridging the racial divide. This is a quote from what is his name? Ryan Stephenson, who is the CEO, I believe. But anyway, this is what he had to say. Our communities are being destroyed by racial tension, and we're too polite to talk about it. AT&T CEO, what is that name? Rachel Stevenson. I can't make out his first name. I apologize, but he'll be easy to look at. So, but I have a message for him. Our communities are not being destroyed by racial tension. Our communities are being destroyed by racism under the guise of white supremacy, which is based in the slave codes, which have never truly been abolished, which leads me to make the statement that slavery has never been abolished in this country. So that's what he said, right? Now, he said this in the wake of there being a nationwide prison strike against prison slavery, which has been totally ignored for 3 weeks now by the corporate media, your CNNs, your MSNBCs, all of them. They have been ignoring this historic. It's the United States' largest prison strike, and I would, look at it more correctly as slavery, because the 13th Amendment never abolished slavery, and it made an exception clause. It put an exception clause in there if you get convicted of crime. And after 1865, we call it post 1865 slavery. They passed black codes. They developed the convict leasing system, and then just arrested people over made up crimes like they do today. That's what the drug war is about. And they target black people with these laws, primarily followed by other non-white people like your Hispanics and Native Americans, and then the poor white people, obviously. So AT&T, I have long identified as a company that, well, others identified them, but I have long known that they utilize prison slave labor. And so I just wanted to make sure before I did this video that that information was in fact correct. So those were sources that I found like a year or so ago. I found another source that just came out this year in June that says AT&T is using prison slave labor and only paying $2 a day slave wages to the people that are manning their telephones. And here's the kicker. I used to work in a call center, and now they have prisoners doing call center work. Now I know people who was making up to $60,000 just answering phones for like Sprint PCS at the time. Now I guess it's just Sprint. $60,000 a year, and those jobs are no longer being outsourced overseas to countries like India because Americans complain about the accents and the people not being able to understand them. So how did they solve that problem? Not by bringing those jobs back and hiring people not in prison, but utilizing prison slave labor because they speak English. They are in fact Americans who have been enslaved over made up crimes, and corporations like AT&T take advantage of that. So let's go to this website. This is Return to Now. It's a blog that came up. And again, you could Google this. And if AT&T wants to deny it, then let them do so publicly. That they're utilizing prison slave labor. So the article is How Prison Labor is the New American Slavery, and most of us knowingly support it. If you buy products or services from any of the 50 companies listed below, and you likely do, you are supporting modern American slavery. And again, shout out to Return to Now for using correct language that we have been using for 4 years now on New Abolitionist Radio that airs on Black Talk Radio Network, telling anyone who would listen, bringing on constitutional lawyers, law professors, talking about the exception clause of the 13th Amendment. They all agree slavery was never abolished. What we have was pre-1865 slavery and post-1865 slavery. We need to abolish it. So let's go down to the companies that they have listed. McDonald's is one, which they also sponsor. Murder Music, shout out to Clear the Airwaves Project, which is targeting McDonald's for supporting the ratchet music that you hear on radio stations targeting black communities. And then you have all these corporations supporting that garbage music being played on the public airways, FCC licensed airways, and FCC is allowing them to put obscene and content that is supposed to be only from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. And but yeah, so not only do McDonald's support killer rap on the radio, so turn off those killer radio stations, but they also utilize prison labor. Let me go down some more. Here we are, AT&T. In 1993, the massive phone company laid off thousands of telephone operators, all union members, in order to increase their profits. Even though AT&T's company policy regarding prison labor reads eerily like Walmart's, they have consistently used inmates to work in their call center since 1993, barely paying them $2 a day. So they also have links to other sources. Okay, give me just a minute as I fix my screen there. BP, and so Google this article. This is slavery, people. Bank of America, which is in Charlotte, North Carolina, which has been the site of recent protests. So look at all these over the killing of Keith Lamont Scott. Let me say the victim's name. Victim of slave catching gone wrong. Can't make no money off of dead slaves. So it's time to end this. So we're calling on this CEO, Mr. Stephenson, CEO of AT&T, to change your business practices. If you're going to utilize labor that is in prison, you need to pay them $15 an hour like you would pay somebody on the outside. They have families, they have children, they have elderly parents, and it is time out for slavery. So if people do things that lands them in prison because they murdered someone, they raped someone, you know, but I mean, I understand making them work, but if they are in there for these victimless drug crimes and other victimless crimes, and you're putting people into slavery and participating in human trafficking, especially with the private prisons taking on in this practice. If you want to talk about Black Lives Mattering, or if you want to talk about American lives mattering, do your part to end slavery by stop practicing slavery. Don't use the labor at all if you're not going to pay $15 an hour and you're going to pay slave wages, not have to, give these prisoners any benefits or whatnot. So, yeah, bring an end to it. So, people, it is time out for slavery worldwide, because many of these companies like the GEO Group and CCA, they maybe not CCA, but I know the GEO Group is an international slaver. It's time to start calling it what it is and calling these people out. I appreciate you, Mr. Stephenson, opening up the door to that conversation. It is uncomfortable for people, but I'm not trying to make you uncomfortable, but I just want to point you to your own business practices and what you can do to make all lives matter in America. All right? Stop practicing slavery and help grassroots organizations abolish slavery by removing the exception clause from the 13th Amendment of the United States Constitution, which moved slavery, the institution of slavery, from the plantations to the prison plantations, the concrete plantations. Thank you for taking this under consideration. And to the rest, if you're not an abolitionist today, then guess what? You are in support of slavery by your inaction and silence in slavery.